Hi, so this is a follow-up from the previous video. In the last video, which was on Wednesday, I had gone to a party with some people that I know through work, and it's one lot of work people, and I had gone into a virtual reality experience with them, and I had some sort of realizations, I guess, and then I had a really long video where I talked about all sorts of things. Then the second part, so today I'm talking about what happened yesterday. So on Friday I went to a separate Christmas party with a different bunch of people that I know through work, a different team, and they had a really nice Christmas party full of laughter and lots of drinking and festivities and fun. But I wanted to share one conversation in particular and perhaps some other things as well. So on the Wednesday, I had been talking about the idea of simulations and virtual reality and the world in which we live right now. It almost felt like to me that we are living in some sort of, maybe not a simulation perhaps, but you can use these human words or the understandings that we have now as a bit of an analogy or a bit of a, the closest thing that we can use to describe the reality in which we live, in which it's some sort of fluid system in which things can change around us, and so maybe the world is not always maybe it's not the static sort of scientific world that we had always assumed, and perhaps the world is something else. Maybe we are living in some sort of you can use the word simulation for lack of a better word, not necessarily computer simulation, but some sort of reality which is more like a dream perhaps. So that was the idea. So Friday, so yesterday, I went to this party, and I don't know how it happened, but at one stage there was a certain group of people, and we're all a similar age, and all the oldies ended up down one end of the table, and then all the sort of people my age ended up on the other end of the table, and we started chatting about different things, and somehow I don't know why, but somehow I got into the topic of mentioning to them what had happened to me on Wednesday, going to play the virtual reality game. The other guy's like, "Oh, I've been there just like a couple of weeks ago. It was so awesome. Really enjoyed running around and shooting the zombies." I'm like, yeah, I did the exact same thing, and it was really cool. And then I said to him, I just said out loud, I had this weird experience where I came out of the virtual reality and I wanted to put my hand through people. I wanted to reach out and touch them, but put my hand right through them as if they were a ghost. And I said, basically, I felt like, so he was like, I know what you mean. Like, I wasn't explaining it very well, but he understood the feeling that I meant, and he was like, it feels like you're still sort of in that world. I'm like, basically I felt like when I was in the real world here, that I was still in the virtual reality. I was still in the game, that I was still in some sort of simulation. And he's like, "Oh, I really don't like that feeling." Hang on, I wrote some notes, so I will attempt to read the notes here. So I told him that, and then he's like, I really hate that feeling, that really uneasy feeling of like you feel like you're still in the virtual reality. And I'm like, I don't hate it at all. I love that. All this sort of stuff excites me, and it's really interesting to sort of think that maybe we are in some sort of simulation. And he's like, we could all be living in the Matrix right now. And then the girl that's sitting beside him, she's like, Well, she's like, well, there is some science which proposes that we could be living in a simulation. And yeah, he's like, yeah, I just get really uneasy thinking about that. So for me, it's exciting, and it's because I want to sort of discover more. I want to know what's going on. I want to, I've always had that want to to see more than what I can just see, and to have that, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's built into my heart and soul. Like I really want to discover this stuff. But for him, that was like a scary prospect. So anyway, so someone else told a joke, but then the girl, she was like, if I was in the Matrix, I would take the blue pill, or I wouldn't take any pill. I would just continue living my life in the Matrix. And so what she meant was, if you haven't watched The Matrix, basically the blue pill is if you take that, then you go back to being an ordinary human and living in everyday, day-to-day life, and you never get to find out what the Matrix really is. And she was like, the outside of the Matrix sucked, and then the guy was like agreeing, and he was saying like, yeah, they had all bad food and stuff, like they couldn't even eat properly, and it was not really that nice outside the Matrix. And the girl's like, yeah, they had some sort of superpowers temporarily when they went back into the Matrix, but she's like, I don't know, I would just choose to stay in the Matrix. I wouldn't want to go outside. And I was like, wow, this is so like revealing the truth, just like the core soul of the essence sort of thing. And yeah, and then we sort of like continued talking. I can't remember the whole conversation, but at some point I just sat back and I was like trying not to laugh. And then I just said to them, like, most people can't handle this stuff. If you talk to them too much about it, if you push them too far, their brain will just snap. Like they can't handle that idea of living in a matrix or living in a simulation. And they basically agreed. And basically what I realized from what they just said, and their agreement was that they refuse to even consider the idea that this could be real, because that idea scares them so much. What am I trying to say? Not that this could be real. This idea is true. If it was true, they refuse to even consider accepting it or even consider thinking about it, because that idea that this could just be a fake reality, something about it scares them inside themselves so much that they just don't want to face that prospect. And in this community we talk about these things, and we talk about NPC characters in this way, and we commonly, a lot of people like to refer to people like this as NPCs, and they say things like, they just want to bury their head in the sand and do all this stuff. But like I'd never really talked to people in this way before, and I pushed them like with direct conversation about without touching them direct, like without pointing at them specifically. We were basically talking about the very exact subject that I wanted to know the full truth on, and they were telling me literally like they are too scared they can't handle the truth, and that's how they are. And so they choose to be that they prefer to not know. That they would prefer to what's the better way of saying that? They would prefer to just avoid the subject completely. But anyway, we've all had a whole bunch of wine that's come around, and we've all had lots to drink and stuff. Well, we're not totally drunk, but we're sort of like, we're coherent and stuff. So everyone's in a very happy mode, and it's a very the conversation is not dark or deep or too problematic. The conversation was very lighthearted, kind of joking, almost like a very joking sort of sense. So the other guy who's very jovial and joking, he's like, how do we know that we aren't NPCs? And I'm like looking at them, I'm like, how do I know you aren't an NPC? How do I know you are real or are not real? And then someone else was like, well, you wouldn't really know. And then I looked at them and I'm like, you wouldn't even know who is real and who's an NPC. And then for about like a second, like just a split second, there's like this awkward moment where like my eyes just like looked at them awkwardly and they looked at me awkwardly, and there's like three of us in particular, so me, the girl and the guy, and it was like boop boop boop, and everyone's got this weird sort of like checking each other out, like, are you an NPC? Am I real? Are you real? And it was really funny. And then anyway, that just sort of changed back just for a split second, and then it just changed back to like funny conversation again, and then somehow we drifted off topic because like I was just like laughing a little bit to myself at that point, and I'd heard enough and there was nothing else I could contribute. I couldn't push anymore without pushing it too far. So my big problem in life is I'm almost like too, not the powerful is not the word, perhaps I'm too, maybe it is, like I can be way too intense, and I can go way overboard, just way beyond what people can handle. In any subjects, like it might not necessarily be a story or literal, or it could just be a situation. I can easily go, okay, so this person's doing this, and then I just keep pushing, and I don't realize at the time, but usually a lot of people can only handle like, I've got my hand up about the height of my chest here, and then like that's what most people can handle, whereas what I can handle is like the height of a building sort of thing. And so I just push them, bam, with all this stuff, and it's way too intense, way too powerful. But I've learned through life to kind of pull back and know when to stop, because otherwise I don't want to like make the situation too full on. So basically I just stopped talking at that point, and the conversation, without me being involved, naturally drifted away to something very mundane and boring. But that whole conversation was just really fascinating for me, because yes, I had that experience on Wednesday, and then I brought that storytelling of it into the Friday experience. So there was a relationship there, but at the same time it was so it was almost like synchronicity, but not quite synchronicity, just the way they were talking. And it was it felt like, is this real? Like I in that situation I felt like, it felt like I was in a dream almost. Like it felt real, but it felt like the situation itself was too unbelievable that it felt like it was dreamy. I don't know how else to put it. And it wasn't like a strong feeling, but I could sense it, and it was there, and it was like, are you guys just characters in my dream, sort of thing. But when we had that awkward eye to eye sort of thing going on, when that happened, and just my general sense of sort of their energy and everything, my overall take on it is that they're not NPCs in the classical sense of what computer gamers would understand of. They're not just computer generated characters, but these people that I was talking to, I think a better description for them would be more like children. Whereas like we here in this community perhaps are more like, you can describe us more as like adults, I guess, is the best way of putting it. So these people you're talking to could be young, they could be your age, they could be old, they could be really old, but the actual age in life doesn't really matter. It's more about like their age in terms of their development and understanding of the world, and not even understanding of the world, like their ability to, like their spiritual development, for lack of a better word. It feels like a lot of the people here are like more like children to me, and I'm more like the adult. And but I'm not a teacher for them. But sometimes, and it's kind of like they're old enough to do their own thing most of the time, but sometimes I've got to kind of go in there and kind of hold their hand, maybe, or guide them in the right way if they're starting to go off in the wrong direction, almost like that sort of thing. Like like I'm not. Yeah, that's the best way of describing it. It's more like these people are not. They're not fake. Like they really could be real people, but they're more like just not. They're not. That they haven't progressed to a certain stage, or alternatively, they are. Perhaps in some cases they are adults, but they have been trapped inside a cage, and that cage is built of fear, and so perhaps some sort of traumatic experience or some sort of, I don't know what has happened, and so they're sort of trapped inside this tiny little box, this little cage, this little cube, or they've put themselves into this cube and they just really like it there. Maybe they're just too comfortable there and they love it inside their cube, but that cube is surrounded by this invisible fence. Well, for them it's the edge of the universe. It's the edge of their universe. But for me, it's just like it's just like a force field, and there's this fear of going to the edge of their force field because they don't want to touch the force field because they think they're going to get zapped, and they might get zapped temporarily while they touch the force field, and then, but the thing is that they could have been trapped in that little cube, that little cage for so long that they don't even recognize the boundaries anymore, and they're just running around in this little box, not even knowing that it is that small. But if I was to turn off the force field, or open up the gates, open up the doors of the box, or open up the fence so that they could just roam around freely wherever they wanted to go, they would still stay within the physical, within the space. They would still stay within that space. They wouldn't venture out even if the gate was open, because they'd be like, oh my god, I don't know what's outside, that's too scary. So I'm going pretty off topic here, but it was just an interesting conversation that I had, and it just seemed too amazing to be having that conversation in the first place, and it was, it's hard to explain clearly, but hopefully you can get something from what I'm trying to say. Later on the party continued. They had this little game where you had to you had to open an envelope and there'd be a random question in there, and you'd have to answer the question before you could go get your present or whatever. And for me, I opened this envelope, and inside it was this tiny little piece of paper, and the question said something like, what are your 3 Christmas wishes? And it probably means just basic little wishes or something. But the way, I'd been drinking, so I understood it in a totally, my brain just instantly went from what are your 3 Christmas wishes to and I said it out loud. I'm like, if you could have anything in the world, what would it be? And that was like my interpretation of the question. Like, if you could ask, it was almost like you've got a lamp for the genie, and you're Aladdin, and you've rubbed the lamp, and he's going to grant you 3 wishes, and can be anything in the universe. And it's like, if you could have anything at all, what would it be? And I'm standing there, and I'm like, I don't know how to answer this question, because like everyone else will be like, I want $1 billion, and I want a blah 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 and a blah blah blah. They would answer it pretty easily. Certainly the first question. Second question would be okay. Third question, they might think a bit, and then they'd find something. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, I don't know what would be my 3 wishes, because like the first one, like I could tell that time was ticking over, and I didn't want to keep them waiting for too long. So I was like, all right, well, number 1, I wish everyone in the world was happy. And everyone's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I'm trying to think about number 2, and my heart is just sort of saying, like, I don't really want anything materialistic, really. What do I really want? And all I could think of was like these kind of things that we talk about here, like what I really want might be something that's just too way outside the bookends of what people can even comprehend, perhaps, but perhaps what even I can articulate myself, or even comprehend myself what it is that I want. And I was just struggling, because I felt like what I really want is something that I can't even explain yet. But I was trying to like lock in or what it was, but I could feel that it was something non-standard, and like I knew that I couldn't say this thing out loud in front of all these people. So then I was like, what do I say? So then, yeah, number 2's, and then my brain just quickly goes, holiday. So I'm like, all right, so I'll have a holiday. Yeah, that'll be good. I'll have a holiday. That'll be my second Christmas wish. So that was easy. I answered that one. And then I got to the number 3, and I was like, I have no idea how on earth to answer this one. And luckily, the other guy, who's also very jovial, and then he blurted out, another 3 wishes. I'm like, yes, perfect. That's exactly what I want. I want another 3 wishes, because that's just an easy escape, an easy way to answer the third question and answer my 3 wishes without actually like answering it properly. But at least it was good enough to get me over the line. So, but it made me reflect, like, what do I really want? Like, what are my real wishes? And they kind of fluctuate and change over time, I guess. But I kind of feel like lately, like everything just feels a little bit. Certain situations, they all feel quite perfect, and I don't know if I would want to change anything or have. I don't know what to wish for, really, like in the physical material world, because or even like with people and how they are and everything. Like you could wish for world peace or something, but I don't know, like everything just seems really there's lots of problems, sure, but like there's lots of situations that just seem to be going perfectly. Like everything seems to be like the story is telling itself out, and it's playing out perhaps the way that it's supposed to, I guess. And I'm not really upset with the story at this point. I'm still okay with this story that we're going through, even though there's a lot of problems being gone through by a lot of people. It's relatively all these problems that everyone's experiencing, saying this is the worst thing in the whole world. It's so minuscule, and so these things are so tiny compared to what could happen. Like what's the worst things that could happen, and there are so many bad scenarios for how this world could be or how this world could go, and people complaining about going from a nice situation to an uncomfortable situation, but it's only just uncomfortable enough that like they slightly can't bear it, but like it could be extremely uncomfortable, you know what I mean? So relative to like other things, this year's been, so I feel like, anyway, the story's going okay. So what do I really wish for? And I'm sure I wish for something, but I think I will know when I get to it what I really wish for. So yeah, what do you wish for? And then later on in the party, it was getting on a bit, but it didn't feel like that much time had passed. But finally, I got to meet up with my friend, who was right down the other end of the table. Like, they couldn't have separated us by any more if they had to. Like, I was literally right down one end and she was all the way down the other end. But anyway, so we love to talk, and we barely talked all year, and so we finally had like one-on-one time a little bit where there was basically no one else in listening range, and we could actually like say a few things. But it was only for like a minute or two, and I said, "How are you going?" Blah blah blah. And one of the things I said to her is like, I've had some interesting dreams this year, and I've been dreaming about certain people, and like I hardly ever dream of people, but there've been certain people that I know have been in my dreams. It's just like, oh, that's interesting. And then I told her that like two of the people are the people that have been at this party today, and in one of the experiences, the lady was kind of like an angel's not the best word, but it's something like that. And in the other dream, two of them were together, and it was kind of like we were related. So, ooh, look, there's a rainbow. That's kind of nice. So anyway, I'm telling my friend about these dreams and stuff, and then it was just like clockwork, like perfect timing. Just as I finished saying it, and then I start to get into a little bit of detail about something else, but I could see there's other people starting to get closer to us, so I can't really use all the language that I want to use. I can't express myself fully. I sort of use keywords that my friend will understand and get a rough sense of what I'm trying to say, even though to anyone else it would not make sense at all. They wouldn't have a clue what I'm actually saying. But that only lasted for about 30 seconds, and then the one lady basically walked up behind us, and then I was like, "What about you? Blah blah blah. What have you had any weird dreams lately?" And it was just like this perfect what's the word? This perfect when you cross from one topic to like the same sort of topic, and then they're related. Yeah, basically. Anyway, I was talking about dreams. I was talking about those people, and then the lady that I was talking about, she appeared. She walked in the room. I could see her walking over. As she basically got down and stood behind us, my friend didn't even realize she was there. I was like, "How about you? Blah blah. What do you have you had any interesting dreams?" And she was saying like, she was saying that she has she doesn't really remember all her dreams, but she has like really amazing dreams where like where she'll have like 5 senses in her dreams. And I'm like, what? Really? Like for me, like most of the time I can barely even see in my dreams. It's more like a knowing of what I'm seeing. For her, she can like see things clearly, and then she can hear things, and then she can smell things, and she can taste things. And she said, "Oh, I'm eating this stuff, and it's like the most amazing taste you've ever tasted. And it's like so much better than anything in real life." And I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing." And then she finishes saying her stuff about dreams, and then the other lady who had been dreaming, who I had that dream about, then she walks over and she sits down, and I'm like, so what about you? Have you had any interesting dreams? And she's like, in my dreams I'm like doing all this stuff and I'm flying around, and I don't really know what's going on, but like all these people are like trying to attack me and stuff, but I've got like this incredible shield and sword, and I'm just like slaying all the dragons or whatever. And she's just like, I don't know, like invincible almost, more or less. And I'm like, wow, that's really it was interesting to hear, because it totally doesn't suit her character in real life at all. It's like completely different. But what do you guys reckon? I feel like, how long have I talked for? I've talked for more than half an hour. And I don't really have anything else to add, but I'd just like to say that I do enjoy your thoughts and ideas. So if you do have things that I've said that you have something to add, feel free to like leave a comment and just say what you're thinking, because even if it is really out there or really bizarre, or if it might not seem related or off topic or something, just feel free to say it, because a lot of what I do is just, it's very one way. Like I'm saying this stuff to you, but I don't really know. You know, I get positive sort of feedback from you guys usually, you know, in certain ways, but I don't really know what you're thinking. So I don't know if I'm going in the wrong direction sometimes, or if I'm, you know, any constructive criticism or feedback, or you know, thoughts that you could extend would be very much appreciated, and some people do, so I thank them for their continued feedback. Anyway, that's it for today.